Welcome to FromRome.Info video. This is Brother Alexis Bugnolo, the publisher and editor of FromRome.Info, an electronic journal for news and commentary about Rome, Italy, and the Catholic Church, on an extraordinary expedition to cover the war in the Ukraine. And I'm broadcasting again today from Warsaw, but the weather being a bit inclement, I'm doing it inside in front of the symbol of Ordo Militaris Catholicus. I'll wait a moment so people gather. I'll open by a little comment to all the trolls who just couldn't be eager to, jump on this video. There's evidently a coordinated project by Russian trolls and bots to send me nasty comments by email or comment field, protesting with self-indignation of the most pharisaical kind, that I am walking with Satan or spreading CIA propaganda. Yes, spreading CIA propaganda. So I will always fashion my reports to make their heads explode all the more. So a lot of people in the West have been deceived by Russian propaganda in the last 12 years to make it appear that Putin is the great restorer of orthodoxy. He's the crusader of modern times. He's an absolutely upright man, even though he's divorced. And our Lord has arranged in his divine providence to every day expose the propaganda of the Russian state and the talking points of the trolls. So it came out today that the Russian army is now bombing Orthodox churches. And one of the churches they attacked was the Church of the Holy Mother of God. Another was the Church of the Holy Myrrh Bearers. So you can't say that he's waging a crusade. You can't say that he's restoring Christianity when he's bombing churches. He's bombing churches. I'm going to say it a couple times so that any Russian troll out there gets it out. He's bombing churches. He's blowing up sacred houses of God. He's destroying sanctuaries of Jesus Christ, and that merits eternal damnation. So if there's anyone out there that says Putin is the savior of the West, he's a Christian crusader, you are blaspheming God Almighty, and you will burn in hell for it. Okay, so this is not just a I say, so say. I hope you accept alternate reality. Alternative views of reality, as one commentator on YouTube said. No, I don't. I only accept the truth. There's no alternative reality to truth. And if you think there is, well, the place for people who think there's an alternative reality to truth is hell. We have to live in the truth. God is our truth. Truth is our God. Jesus Christ is that truth. We cannot play an ideologic game where the facts must be changed to fit the ideology. One of my very good benefactors told me that facts must be changed. Your facts are wrong. Okay, my reality is wrong. I have to change my reality. Okay. He didn't like that response. I had to block him on email. He was sending me emails full of insults because I uphold the moral law, the divine law, international law, and just war theory. So I was quite shocked by his behavior, but a lot of people are so programmed by Russian propaganda that they're doing whatever the KGB would want them to do. They're saying the most nasty things, and they're committing the most horrible mortal sins against charity, truth, and common sense. Now, I will take back what I said the other day about Putin having been married. I was shown that that was wrong. However, I'm glad I was corrected, and I'm glad I made that error, because in showing me that I was wrong, I ran upon a biography which said that he took his wife to Davos in 1996. And in 1997, he was made head of the Russian intelligence services. And from then on, Putin went up and up and up. And a year later, after his vacation in Davos, Biden himself was saying, well, the only thing could possibly get Russia really mad at the West is if we start incorporating the Baltic states into NATO and other countries like that. So here we have two men chosen in the summer of 1996 at Davos to play a theater. And that's the theater they're playing now with Russia getting mad for NATO expansion. And this is part of the distraction. I published at From Rome this morning a very interesting strategic tactical analysis of the Russian military capability called The Logistic Failures of the Russian Invasion of the Ukraine. Very informative video, and I'll make several comments on it. But the first was that Putin began the buildup for this war in October of last year, and that's the month when all the information came out about how deadly the vaccines were and what was actually in them. And once that became public, the narrative that was being pushed by globalists couldn't be pushed anymore, so they needed a new narrative. And I guess Klaus Schwab called up Putin and says, now you can invade the Ukraine. And this is why it was done so hastily. It was organized so badly. If it is true, according to the documentary I published today from Rome on the logistical problems of the Russian army, that their armed forces do not have sufficient mechanized supply units, motorized units, then there's no possible way Russia could invade Europe, by land that is. They can't go more than 90 kilometers from their railheads, unless they take rail lines or build new ones, which they don't seem able to do. So this explains the very apparently congenial terms of the peace offer that Putin has offered Zelensky, and that is to recognize the Russian possession of the Crimea and the independence of Donetsk and Luhansk republics. And that would give Russia much better all-winter ports and a huge quantity of coal and iron that they could use to build a new war machine. And I think from my estimation, what I've seen of Putin's character, if it appears that he has egg on his face from this war and the oligarchs' displeasure in him, and he succeeds in getting rid of some of these sanctions so that Russia can somehow normalize, he's going to have 5 years building the Russian army up, if he has enough Russians to do it, because there's so many side effects from these vaccines. So in a way, Putin has defeated Europe. I spoke previously about how Putin has turned nuclear deterrence on its head. In nuclear deterrence, I have the bomb, you have the bomb, and therefore we don't attack one another's allies. We allow certain amounts of limited war, but we threaten one another and there's no war. But Putin has used nuclear deterrence. He's turned it on his head and he said, I have a nuclear bomb, and if you don't let me start the war in the Ukraine, I'm going to bomb you. And then NATO blinked. USA blinked. The EU blinked. The whole world blinked. And that was Putin's first geopolitical victory. And on that basis, if he had a military that could prosecute war, he could pick off one country after another. But he has also now defeated NATO by his own failure. Because if he fails to conquer the Ukraine and settles with some small territorial gains, or just legal recognition of what he already had before the war, then the Ukraine has militarily defeated the Russian Federation. And that means NATO no longer has a purpose for its existence. Because if Ukraine, which is not a major power at all, can defeat the Russian Federation, there's no reason to have NATO. Why do you have this big alliance of all these countries against the Soviet threat? That doesn't exist. They can't even go beyond 90 kilometers beyond their borders. So by his own failure, he has defeated NATO. And if Zelensky accepts these new terms in the treaty, I do expect that NATO might very well just dissolve or become absolutely ineffective in the next 5 years, because the countries say, hey, why pay into it? If the Ukraine can defend us, all we have to do is send arms to the Ukraine and Russia can't get to us. And so that's the irony of what is happening in this war. The human tragedy is real, and my hats off to Father Karan, who raised $300,000 from the Ukrainian community in Pennsylvania for Ukrainian refugees. He's doing wonderful work. People say I'm evil for helping the Ukrainians, but the Ukrainian Catholics in the United States know that's just a bunch of Russian propaganda. And so that's wonderful, the work they're doing. And at least 20,000 men have already signed up for the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. I don't know how many have yet arrived in the Ukraine, but there's some reports out of Fox that they're running out of guns for volunteers. They have more volunteers than guns, and that is a very good sign. Although Russia is massing its armored and attack forces at Kiev, and maybe this very kind peace treaty offer to Zelensky is merely to gain time to do a sufficient job to take the city of Kiev. I think if the Russians do take Kiev, there won't be much left of Kiev. They'll have to pretty much blow it all up. They'll never have this people's loyalty. President Duda of Poland tweeted out today that he agrees with Zelensky. Every house and destroyed and every person killed in the Ukraine is only increasing the desire and the will to resist of the Ukrainian people. And Russia will never be able to pacify the Ukraine. And they have made themselves a mortal enemy, and a quite fierce one. And this basically takes Russia out of the geopolitical game. It's no longer a superpower, and no nation is going to regard it as superpower. If you can't even conquer the Ukraine, then of course you perhaps could say the United States couldn't even conquer Afghanistan, but they did conquer Iraq. So there's a big shift in geopolitics now. China is going to get a lot meeker. If China sees that Russia can't even take the Ukraine, the Chinese are going to realize that the ally we thought we had on our northern border that was strong is really very weak. And maybe the Chinese will start saying, next time Russia's in a problem, maybe we should invade Russia too, because they couldn't do anything to defend themselves. We could grab all of Siberia, and Russia doesn't even have an army to defend themselves. So Russia's in a very bad state. Their weakness of their entire military has been exposed to the world. Their inability to plan a military operation has been exposed to the whole world. Their inability to have sufficient industrial production to organize invasion has been exposed to the whole world. And the very low morale of their army has been exposed to the whole world. And that's not good for Russia, because Russia is a vastly large nation. And if they're seen to be weak, they're going to start to lose their territories. In the West, there has been a lot of talk about who is in favor of this war and who's not in favor of the war. If you don't know the moral principles of war, if you don't know the just war theory, if you know nothing about international law, you might be tempted, like a lot of foolish and uninformed people are on social media, to judge whether this war is just or not on the basis of who's supporting it. Oh, Reuters is in favor of the Ukraine, therefore the Ukraine must be bad and Russia is good. Well, you know, if you were 8-year-old, I would excuse that. But if you're an adult and you use those principles of discernment, you're an idiot, okay? And that is very unkind to the Ukrainians. And it's not unkind for me to say it to you, because that's not the principle why you judge a war is just or not, by which news media is in favor of whom. Who's the ally of whom? That doesn't it. Who started the war acted justly or not. Whether they conduct the war justly, and is the person conducting the war justly. So there's a lot of people out there who use the second stupid principle is, there are certain people I don't like in one country, and therefore the whole country is bad. The Russians bomb a church, and therefore Putin did it. We can't allow ourselves to fall into such unjust, irrational, and absurd manners of thought. And I know a lot of people just think Russia's right, and they're going to make up any excuse whatsoever. Well, if you're a Catholic and you're doing that, you're going to go to hell, because that's completely dishonest. War is not a football game where you can say, I like the Tigers and I don't care what the other side says, and I'm going to give you all the reasons why the Tigers are better and are going to win. It's not that sort of thing. War is not a football game. And you cannot judge it on those bases. I could see that if one was a Russian, he could say that our cause is right, or if one is a Ukrainian. But for those of us who are neither Russians nor Ukrainians, we have to look at objective principles. We have no loyalty other than to Jesus Christ to decide what's right or wrong. And we should base it on that basis. Russia started the war when there was no reason for Russia to start a war. Ukraine isn't even capable of invading Russia. Well, it turns out Russia's not invading Ukraine, but nevertheless, Russia started the war. So the burden of proof is on the Russians, and they don't meet the conditions for a war. They weren't conducting a crusade. They weren't targeting only the unjust. They are targeting innocents. They're out to annex the country. Even Putin said, I want to wipe the Ukraine off the map. His dream has been to revive the Soviet Union. He positioned his army in such a way as made it clear that he's out to take the whole country, not just wanting to arrest Zelensky. Zelensky is baiting him by giving him out his address. Well, go and take, if you really just want him, go to the leader. But that's not what it is. They're bombing Odessa. The general that ordered the bombing of Kharkiv was born in Kharkiv. You have to be a pretty heartless man to bomb your own hometown. And so the mayor of Odessa, who was a known Russian file, said, what kind of madman would order the bombing of my city? So it's pretty clear that this has nothing to do with a cause of righteousness. This has nothing to do with defending the Christian religion. And if anyone should sustain that, then they're closing their eyes and they're just blatantly uttering a blather of satanic lies. And if you don't like me for saying that, well, tough. You can send me 10,000 insults. It's not going to change my view of the thing. You can plead with me, I don't care if you're a benefactor and give me $10,000. You're not going to change me how I think. I am not a person to be bought. I didn't become a Franciscan to sell myself for money. So this is the truth of the war, and these are some of the important things to speak about today on the 8th of March, 2022. This is the 14th day of the war, I think, and the Russians are just bogged down. They're committing all their most expert troops of their entire military forces in an attempt to take Kharkiv, and if they can't even take Kiev, or Kyiv, as the Ukrainians say, if they can't even do that, if their attack fails in the next few days, if they execute the attack and fail, then the war is over. Russia has no more. The Ukrainian people will eventually prevail if the war goes on, and Russia would do well to end the conflict as soon as possible, before the Ukrainians maybe take back the Crimea or invade Belarus or Russia itself and take some territory. Because at this point, I think the will to fight among the Russians will be broken. And this is the truth. These are the facts. This is the reality of the war. This is not ideology and it's not propaganda. And I wish God's blessing on all who support Ukrainian refugees and all the men who are going to fight. Now, I will, at this very end, mention to you the Humanitarian Fund relief program that the Ordo Militaris has organized and that I and AJ are spearheading. I want to thank the donors who already sent in about $1,727. Someone's even made a monthly pledge of $20. One of our donors gave us $1,000, and may that donor be blessed in eternity. So there's a lot more to do. There's now 2 million refugees who fled the Ukraine, and Poland has about 1 million of them. And they're just, it's making it impossible to even find a hotel room in Warsaw or any kind of rental. They're taking up everything, and God knows they need shelter. But the humanitarian crisis is very great, and though our order can't really do great things, we probably won't raise even 50,000. Nevertheless, the little we can do. So if you can help us do that, that will be great. And the more you give, the more I'll be in Poland organizing a humanitarian effort. And if you would like to fight for the Ukrainian army as a member of their international foreign legion, you can contact me at the number below in the show notes. And this is why I am in Warsaw, to open an office of Ordo Militaris Catholicus and to organize the volunteers before they go into the Ukraine, to see they have everything right and to help them with their supplies. So if you would like to help these men with their non-military equipment, become a member of Ordo Militaris by going to our website. I'll put that in the links. And pledge as a donor, as a lay member, a squire, a knight, a baron, a duke. And that money will go to enabling me to be able to buy them the winter clothing they need, the supplies, medical kits, all those kind of things, boots, gloves that you need in this kind of a climate, even though this year is mild without much snow. Thank you all, and God bless you. This is Brother Alexis Bugnolo reporting live from Warsaw, Poland on the war in the Ukraine, day 14.